Is life better in the US or Kenya? Given that I often espouse how great my life is here in Kenya, some of you have been asking me to do more comparisons between the US and Kenya. Let's get into it. I haven't done it in a while, but this is a story time. First off, I don't think that's a fair question because the answer is relative to your personal situation. If I were to survey this channel community, I'm guessing that most would opt to move to the US if it were possible. But some of you would adamantly want nothing to do with it. I've interacted with well-to-do Kenyans in Nairobi who are living the good life. They take vacations abroad every year, they enjoy fine dining out with friends, and they live in luxury apartments in the city. Essentially, they're enjoying the lifestyle that one would have in any major city, such as Paris, London, Boston, New York City, or Chicago. In contrast, you've also seen me interact with other Kenyans who are desperately seeking an opportunity to change their life circumstance. I made a video a few months back called A Tale of Two Kenyans, which is just a play on words I borrowed from Charles Dickens' novel, A Tale of Two Cities. That is where the similarities end. What had prompted A Tale of Two Kenyans is that I quickly saw very different attitudes of Nairobi Kenyans when compared to coastal Kenyans. And it makes complete sense. Why wouldn't there be, given the modernization of Nairobi while many coastal Kenyans are in the service industry? This all feeds into the question of life in the US versus Kenya. If you're a well-to-do Kenyan, you likely love it here. If you're challenged financially, you'd likely want to explore opportunities in the US. This is not an exact science because there's always outliers. I'm speaking in generalities. Now onto the American perspective. If you're a well-to-do American, you will quickly scream that life in the US is better. And if you're a poor American, you will also say that life in the US is better. I find that extremely fascinating. Why do poor Americans think that life in the US is automatically better than every other country? There is this interesting belief in the United States that it is just the greatest country on earth no matter your personal circumstance. If we take a step back and move around the world, it should become apparent that it makes very little sense to elevate one culture over another. It's all about different experiences. A person could be overwhelmed by New York City and find Boston as just the right cultural fit, or the pole pole lifestyle of the Kenyan coast versus the often described chaos of Lagos or Cairo. I would argue that it is a futile exercise to try to rank cultures. We are better off filling our lives with as many experiences as possible. I'm also certain that my previous statements are shaped by the fact that I have lived in different countries. Being born in Lebanon, then moving to the US after college is impacting how I view the question of culture. The fact that I've lived in Boston, New York City, spent lots of time in Canada, and now Kenya will forever shape how I weigh in on cultural topics. I would love it if America would suspend the thought of considering itself the greatest country in the world. I'm a fan of Obama's presidency, but he too repeated that America is the greatest country on earth. I'm aware that he wasn't disparaging other countries, but it does a disservice to Americans when leaders continue to parrot this talking point. I've seen documentaries of very poor white Americans who believe they're inherently better than people from other cultures. By the way, it goes beyond white Americans. Many black Americans also see themselves superior to Africans. My goal is not to come for Americans in this video. I am just calling out the irony of living in a dire situation, but at the same time claiming superiority over others. I've met so many folks from all walks of life, and this appears to be a unique American trait of feeling the need to claim superiority. Here is the harm that this approach inflicts on Americans: nationalism. This inward-looking approach gives rise to groups who then try to define what a real American is. Are we surprised that statements like "go back to your country" are popping up more and more? Limited worldview. According to the US Department of State, as of 2017, 42% of Americans hold a passport. This figure lags behind other developed countries, with Canada at 66% and the UK at 76%. Traveling is not a requirement to be a kinder, gentler person, but I would argue that it helps improve one's knowledge and understanding of other cultures. Western media perspective. Watching news in the US versus everywhere else is a very interesting experience. In the US, we're inundated with mostly US topics, as if there's nothing else going on in the rest of the world. Other than catastrophic global events like the war in Ukraine, most Americans are isolated in their consumption of world news. It is not lost on me that most Americans don't know anything about Africa. Africa is not described as relevant, so it takes natural curiosity and exploration for you to discover Africa for yourself. It truly makes Americans woefully uneducated about the second largest continent in the world. In doing my research for this piece, take a look at how the reference site ThoughtCo depicts the continents in their listing. Sadly, this is what we've come to expect. I'm guessing that the writers aren't even aware of their unconscious biases, or they're just lazy. Such images perpetuate negative stereotypes for some and positive for others. Asia is depicted as street food vendors. Africa is considered as market merchants. North America is depicted as modern. Europe is depicted as having beautiful cities. Antarctica is just cold. South America has vast landscapes. And Australia is nothing but kangaroos. Of course, there are many street vendors in Asia, and Africa has lots of markets. But how they are depicted continues to reinforce an old narrative that they are primitive. For reference, this is Asia. And this. And this. This is Africa. And this. And this. This is North America. And this. And this. You get my point, right? There is no value in promoting negative or dated imagery of cultures. I am all for uplifting all cultures. I was recently chatting with a friend in the US who called me his hero because I picked up and moved to Kenya for 6 months. He works in New York City and has a very impressive income. This, of course, is all relative. However, he laments about how stressed out he is professionally. He enjoys fine dining and takes lavish vacations to Europe. Is his life better in the US, given that he's stressed out 90% of the time? Perhaps he's an extreme case. I don't know if it's because I'm a Mzungu here in Kenya, but everyone is just so nice. Strangers are just kind to me. When I'm in New York or Boston, we're all busy doing our own thing, which can be exhausting. As a family member describes it, New York City is a grind. Whether I'm in Nairobi or on the coast, it appears easy to interact with strangers. I don't know if I'm just giving off tourist vibes, but I assure you that most New Yorkers could care less about tourists. They avoid Times Square so they don't need to see tourists. So you tell me, who is friendlier? I've met these two awesome ladies here in Kenya. They're fans of the channel, but they don't want me to promote Kenya to Americans. Who could blame them, right? However, I'm on a mission to educate through my experiences, so I must share. I'll conclude by taking the position that everyone should explore the opportunity of living somewhere else for a little bit. It doesn't matter where, and it doesn't need to be a lifetime move. Move around and take in another culture. I promise that you will be a better world citizen for it. I know that I've only scratched the surface of my personal journey. I expect that to fully appreciate a culture, learning the language when feasible should be a bold goal. It's impressive that when traveling, most folks have the skill of being able to speak more than one language. And to that I say, Asante kwa kutazama. Did I get that right? Thanks for watching. Take care and be good to one another.